In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 things you need to assess if your ex is dating someone. Those 4 things are here to help you make the best decision ever. Right now, and that's very common for people who are dealing with breakups, there's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of uncertainty. When you see your ex dating someone, you might be thinking, it's the end, I should move on, I should stop trying to get back with them. Or sometimes we might be feeling, I know they're making a mistake, I know it's just a stage, and I have chances of us to get back together. In this video, I'm going to share with you whether you have a chance, whether you don't have a chance, the things you really need to assess, because sometimes there's so many things we tend to analyze signs that are not necessarily relevant to this situation. I'll explain everything after the jingle.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So you need to understand the dynamic of reborn relationship, of people dating someone new after a breakup, is that they have the idea that they are leaving a relationship that was not good for them, that was bad, and starting a new relationship that seems to be better, the good one. So they will label your new relationship the bad one and label the new one the good one. And that happens until things change, until they realize that this new relationship is not as perfect as they thought. This new person is not as compatible as they thought. And that happens in those 4 situations. That happens if you analyze those 4 important factors that I will introduce today. The first thing you need to assess, you need to reflect on, is your relationship. I'm a relationship counselor, and it's something I assess with my clients sometimes on the first session, is really making sure that this relationship was something different. That this relationship, the dynamic of the relationship, meant that for your ex, it's going to be something difficult to forget, something difficult to replace. Don't get me wrong. Most breakups are definitive, right? If you're watching this video, I can assume that your relationship was something special. You wouldn't want to save something where you had a fling and you're not sure whether it's mutual. So it's important to assess the length, the dynamic, the history. Again, the kind of relationship that is unique. Most relationships, and that's the case for you, that's the case for me, that's the case for most people, most relationships are not meaningful. We only have a handful, 1 or maybe 2 meaningful relationships in our life. So make sure that you're trying to save, that you're trying to get back with someone for which it's the case. It's very important. Sometimes, and I see that sometimes, people are a bit delusional with the strength and the importance of the relationship, because the breakup made them feel unimportant versus their partner important. So it's very important to assess this. If that's not the case, there's always an element of comparison between your relationship and your new relationship, as I discussed before. If your relationship wasn't meaningful, there's no way your ex started to reevaluate your relationship over this new one. It's very important, and I'm spending a bit of time on this because I don't want you to spend hours watching content online about breakups, including my videos, and figuring out 6 months down the line that they were not happy with you. That they fell out of love a long time ago. And therefore this new relationship might not work, but there's no chance of you getting back together. Second element is the breakup. Really understanding what happened. How did you behave? Did you make things worse? Were you mature in your reaction? Were you sort of trying to figure out a solution, or were or judging them? What sort of image did you leave? I mentioned the labeling aspect. It's very important. The last impression is very important. And in breakups, obviously, we are the worst of... Sometimes we give or we provide the worst of ourselves. And it's very important to assess those things if you want to know whether you have a chance. It's important, as I mentioned before, if, for example, your ex fell out of love like months ago, It's going to be very hard to rekindle something that was already broken for ages. The people I help are mostly people, not that I don't want to help people who have had difficult relationships and difficult breakups, and it's always difficult. But it's really important that when someone asks me if they can get back together, I'm really strict about analyzing those two aspects, the relationship and the breakup, because sometimes I can't make people fall in love. And again, it's the same for you. Really assess whether the breakup is something sudden that came out of life experiences, life crisis. I was looking for this word, or whether there was something that was more profound, more sort of down to their idea of the relationship, whether they were happy or unhappy with you. So it's very important to assess that. Third one is timing. Timing is very important. You need to assess whether your ex started the relationship right after the breakup. This means that they didn't really have any opportunity to reflect on the breakup, to experience the breakup. And when someone starts a new relationship very quickly after a breakup, it means that they're using that person as a coping mechanism. They don't want to deal with the pain of the breakup. They don't want to deal with the emotional turmoil associated with a breakup, and they start a new relationship that provides them a form of validation, a form of, they're reassuring themselves that they can date someone again. So it's very important to assess this. If your ex met that person 6 months, 1 year after your breakup, that's different. Because they would have had enough time to reflect, to be on their own, to accept that they don't want you back, accept that there's no future, and therefore be attracted. In a way, when you meet someone new, it's rarely the first person that you meet. What I mean by that, when you meet someone meaningful, it's never the first. Rarely, statistically, it's rarely the first person you meet. And so in that phase of 6 to 1 year, or 6 months to 1 year, maybe they dated other people. Maybe they socialized and not even necessarily dated, but they met with other people. And out of all those people they met, they sort of settled with the best one possible at this stage that they found. And this is a long process, right? That's why when you meet someone right after you break up, it's kind of the first person that you meet. So it's very different, and in the context of if your ex is dating someone, has started a new relationship 1 year after your breakup, it's going to be very hard for you to get back together. And if you were to call me and ask me if you have any chance, I would tell you it's going to be very difficult, and I wouldn't necessarily help you to get back together. That happens sometimes. People call me and they want me to help them getting back with their ex, and I tell them, like, I can help you with everything. I can help you with your wounds, with your trauma, with your insecurities, helping you to be more secure, but I'm not going to help you to get back together because I don't think that's the best thing that you should do. So the fourth one, and I divided these 4 sections into A and B. You'll discover why. Attachment, if your ex is avoidant. When an avoidant decides to end a relationship, sometimes it's because of the pressure of commitment, the pressure of closeness. And so, in a way, dating someone is a way to keep you at distance. And they start this new relationship thinking there's no commitment. We don't have to talk about kids, we don't have to talk about moving together, we just enjoy each other and that's it. And that's what they love, in a way. And the benefits, and therefore they have the benefit of the ideal relationship, right? The beginning of relationships are perfect for avoidance. There's no commitment, it's only about, quality time. We don't have to deal about deep things, we don't have to share our fears, to collaborate on complex things, on complex projects. We don't have to project ourselves 10 years down the line. We just have to be there and experience time together on a daily basis, basically. But as soon as it will get serious, because it will get serious, this is where they start to feel triggered. This is where they start to feel, hold on, I left a relationship where I felt my partner asked too much of me, they depended on me, I don't like the idea that also I depended on them, and now it started again. And what happens in this context is this idea of phantom X. It's a concept developed by Amin Levin, who wrote the fantastic book Attached. It's the idea that after a breakup, avoidants usually idealize their ex-partners because they didn't necessarily leave you, they left the relationship. They had feelings for you, and it's just about the thing that they rejected was the relationship, was the commitment element, right? And so they would idealize this relationship because the thread of intimacy is gone, and because the distance, which is also the case for secure people, your qualities, over time, people remember qualities and they forget about the shortcomings, right? And we have this phenomenon of putting your ex on a pedestal. Very frequently we say anxious people, they start a breakup putting their ex on a pedestal. And our job as a therapist is to knock them down from this pedestal and realize that no, you're equal, and also that person needs to work as well on their insecurities. For avoidant, they start like, that person doesn't work, doesn't exist anymore. I don't even consider them. To a point where like, oh, now I feel the void and I want them back in my life. Fourth B is if your ex has an anxious attachment style. And so when that's the case, because they crave intimacy, they will jump into a relationship as soon as possible to get that validation, right? To help them deal with the emotional aspect of the breakup. Usually when they do that, they fail to recognize compatibility element. For anxious people, they start, they get on Tinder and they swipe right, they get a match, they go on that date, they get with that person. I exaggerate, but it's often the case. Because the pain of the breakup is so strong that they are using that person as an emotional cushion. And so at some stage, because they found this person really randomly, they won't feel a spark anymore. The reason they chose that person is not because they love them or they were attracted to them. I mean, they felt they were attracted to them, but they didn't appreciate the fact that they were attracted. It was just like they were there. They cared for them, they were attention, they were, sending nice messages, and these are the things that they were missing from the relationship, from the breakup. So it's very important to assess that those signs, whether your ex is anxious, whether your ex is avoidant, will be different. And therefore, analyzing those signs, those elements, will help you make the decision whether you should get back together, whether you should give up, whether you should move on. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to comment in the comment section. There's also a quiz, as I mentioned, to know if you have any chance of getting back with your ex. And if you want to know more about breakups or about how to deal with this very tricky stage in people's life, make sure you subscribe. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.